There's energy rising right now that has the potential to create new worlds. The world building that happens when you commit to your own creativity and energy and channel. Let that power come up and let it create or uncreate patterns that you want in your life. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. I'm Asia Suler, author, earth intuitive, teacher, and this is our intuitive reading for September 2025. There's a lot of power coming in this month. I'm going to tell you that much. There is this sense of big energy rising, of world building energy at play, creative direction, and getting in touch with your own power. So there's a lot of ground to cover. So let's go ahead and drop into it. So every month I pick a card for the month ahead and I riff off of what that card is about, but also I channel information based on that card from my guides to help us as we step into the energies and the themes for the month ahead. So I decided to work with Kim Krantz's Animal Spirit Guidebook for this month of September. And when I asked the guides that help and serve all of us here in this collective to bring me to a card and I flipped that card over, I felt this huge surge and wave of energy and power move through me. And really, I think this is one of the most powerful cards in this whole deck. And so the card I got was Dragon. I have had a relationship with dragons for a long time. I'm going to talk more about dragon lore in this episode. But first I want to drop into how Kim Krantz describes dragon energy in this deck, because I do think it sets the scene, it sets the stage for what we're walking into in this month ahead. So in the guidebook, Kim Krantz talks about dragon energy as seeing one's true self. And I liked this quote in particular from the description. When dragon energy is awakened, we are courageous, visionary, and can easily drop into witness consciousness. It is almost as if we're traveling with a great friend inside of ourselves. And so I love this concept of dragon energy, not just as something outside of ourselves, but something that is literally within ourselves. And it's this befriending of this big energy that all of us have within ourselves, this big protective energy, this big creative energy. There is within this description really this orientation to seeing the self behind the self. And we're going to talk in a little bit about the ways in which dragon energy is seen and interacted with in archetypical and Jungian psychology. But part of the invitation here is to really peer in and see yourself in a new way. Who are you beneath all of the layers? She also talks in the deck about this card in particular being connected to our third chakra, or the Manipura chakra. This chakra that is called the City of Hidden Gems. It's where our Agni is, the fire of our digestion. It's this, if you think about the third chakra, this is our seat of power here. It's where we derive our personal power from. Also, often it's seen that this fire in the center of our navel gives us the ability to sort of burn away illusion and to really clearly see both the inner and the outer dimensions. And this is so much of what dragon energy has to bring us. So already there was so much depth coming through, even just the description of this card and the guidebook, but there's so much more that wants to come through for this month. And I was really excited when I picked this card because I have already worked with dragons so much, and I understand what it is that they're often trying to bring us, and it's big. So let's go into it. I want to talk a little bit about some dragon lore, because we have this huge wealth of information about dragons over eons. And so it would be silly to not tap into it. So dragons are cross-cultural. The iconography of dragons, the stories about dragons appear in virtually all cultures around the world, which I find absolutely fascinating, but also really makes a lot of sense because if you look at the way in which dragons often appear, especially in the oldest mythologies or cosmologies, dragons are synonymous with earth energy. Dragons are synonymous with the life force itself, with chi, with spirit, with libido, shakti, creative force itself. They are emblematic of the ways in which rivers flow and are often, especially in the East, very connected with water and waterways and the life-giving property of water. But dragons are really synonymous with the life force, the thing that animates us, the thing that animates the material of this world. And, I really love, particularly in China, there's this thing where ley lines, what we know of as ley lines, are often called dragon lines. These lines of innate energy and power that move across the earth. And it's fascinating how similar some of those concepts are to the way in which some Aboriginal cosmologies talk about the rainbow serpent. And I bring all of this up because there's this almost like deep human understanding of what a dragon actually is. And you might feel it in yourself as I'm talking about dragons today, as we're talking about the dragon energy that is rising here in September. I think this is all a part of not only our innate consciousness, but also our bodies as parts of the earth themselves, that we all have dragon energy inside of us because it's literally our ability to connect to the life force. Dragons are power, but it's not power over, it's power with and power within, the power of co-creation, the power that happens when you're connected into the earth and the sinuous life force that flows through our planet. And so there's ways in which being invited into dragon energy is being invited deeper into life itself. Dragon energy is creation, but it's also chaos. And in Eastern cosmologies, often it's talked about that dragons first formed in this formless chaos that came out of the void. So at the very beginning of creation itself, when there was nothing but chaos, is when dragons first formed. So it's the way in which life force itself is starting to be defined, starting to learn how to have these channels to flow through. And in Eastern philosophy and Eastern cosmologies in particular, dragons are, they represent sort of the formless void before creation, these primordial forces. But there's often these themes of enlightenment, wisdom, guardianship and power, and especially like guardianship over wisdom, right? Like protecting sort of like the essential wisdom that is needed to be alive. And there's a reason why in places in the East, like China and Japan and Korea, dragons are seen as benevolent, fertile, wise energies. There's a befriending of the life force here, a befriending of, what is called qi in the Chinese tradition that is moving through the land, that is moving through all things, this animating force. It really is a devotion to the life force itself here on this planet. And I think that this is, in these traditions, dragons are seen as deities, allies, and ancestors. And that's super different, and especially the more recent Western stories and cosmologies. So in a lot of, European cosmologies around dragons, a lot of European mythologies, dragons are creatures that need to be slayed. This is the hero's journey, right? Is like dominating the dragon, is killing the dragon, is, coming in there and gaining control over this force. And so to me, this just points even deeper to this reality that what dragon energy really is like deep earth power. It is a primordial power, one that, in the last 1,000 years or maybe a little more in Europe, people have been very afraid of, right? People have been taught to be very afraid of, taught is wrong, taught needs to be controlled, our own animal nature needs to be controlled, nature herself needs to be controlled. And so what we're talking about with dragon energy is like this rising of power, this rising of earth power. And, in archetypical psychology, as was touched on in the description of this card, dragon energy dragons represent the unconscious, the deep parts of ourselves, this like hidden and locked away power, the primal or primordial parts of ourselves, sometimes the shadow, sometimes the things that we shunt into the shadows that we're not ready, willing, or able to look at. And I think embedded even within Western stories and mythologies around dragons is always this piece that dragons are protecting something very sacred. They're protecting treasure. And from a Jungian perspective, that treasure is our own selves. It's the deepest part of ourselves. And we have to basically be the hero in our own stories and prove that we are like worthy of accessing this deep parts of ourselves, to have the bravery to go into those depths and connect with this like raw power within the parts of ourselves that we shunted away because they thought they were too much. The dragon in this scenario is the part of ourself that protects these pieces of ourself, protects these parts of who we are until we're strong enough to claim them. So this is a very powerful card to have gotten for this month of September. And, with that, I want to drop into what came through in my own channeled reading for the month ahead, why this card in particular is up, and what we can do with it. So make no mistake about it, there's big, sinuous energy arising this month. Like I literally saw it like a sine wave, just getting like bigger and bigger as we move into this month. And the question that's coming through that I think is going to be a really important guiding question for us is this: where is your energy being asked to go? Because there's this sense of energy rising and almost like this raw energy, raw as in like can be directed wherever you decide to direct it. It's like it's rising. It might feel intense. It might feel overwhelming. But what's being asked of you is like, where does the energy want to go? Where do you want to direct it? What is this undulating force within you that you're feeling? And these creative impulses within you, where are they asking you to go to really get in touch with your own creative spirit, like the creative dragon within you? And ask yourself, where does my energy need to go this month? Because there's a rising of energy within yourself, but also within the world this month. It feels like just big raw power on offer. And I think sometimes we have this like thing where we want to say some power is good and some power is bad. And, for example, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of experiencing Hurricane Helene. And it's like very tempting to just be like, hurricanes are bad, right? But this is just, it's actually just raw earth power. There is no good or bad here. It's raw power arising. So no matter what we see go down in the world this month, the sense here is that there's like big energy rising. And the question for you is, how do I want to use my energy? The energy that's rising within me, how does it want to be directed? And I think there's this piece here that came in when I was sitting in the channel of like, you can either choose to ride it or be ridden. That's the choice. And we see this in a lot of like current like stories and books and fantasies around dragons, that it's like often about riding dragons, right? Learning how to ride dragons. And so there's this choice point this month of like, either you learn to ride it or you're ridden. And I think we just often feel ridden by the world, right? Like the relentlessness of the things that are happening on the global stage, the relentlessness of like the acceleration and the big stuff that's happening in this world. But the invitation this month is like, ride it or be ridden. And I really think that we have the ability to do this, to actually recognize our own life force, because that's in some ways, all we're here to do, right, is like my life force, the life force that I have to use in this life, that is here for me to ride and to use to put forth my gifts into this world, to use it in the way I'm meant to use it, to be a part of this co-creative dream of this planet. Like I'm meant to ride that energy, not give it away, not fritter it away, and certainly not be just ridden by the energies of the world. So there's this piece here, if we can get clear on like how are our energies being asked to use, no matter what energies are rising in you. And it might be emotional energy, but know that emotional energy can also be used. Emotional energy is power. It's powerful energy. You can use those emotions as they come up to feel them, work with them, and ride them like a wave. Ride that power and ask yourself, where does the energy want to go right now? And give yourself permission to go there, because there's this feeling sense of this energy rising this month that it has this, like, the word that was used when I was in the channel here was world building energy. And I think about world building on a couple levels. It's like we have literal world building, like building our world. Where are we going as a world? What is going to happen next? But then we have world building of like, what kind of world do you want to live in? The world building that happens when you commit to your own creativity and energy and channel, the world building that happens between you and someone else when you are moving deeper into a relationship. There's a sense of like energy, there's energy rising right now that has the potential to create new worlds. This world building energy, it's on offer this month. And, you know, I just want to just orient us to this reality that like dragon energy is both about creation and destruction, right? Like dragons were there at the beginning, you know, especially if I look at many Eastern cosmologies, dragons created the world. Dragons, this energy is the life force itself flowing through the channels, this chi force flowing through the channels, that this is like world building, world creation, but it's also destructive energy, right? We think about like a dragon's fire, like breathing fire out of its mouth, or even if we think about a dragon being connected to water, you know, like water has the ability to both build and literally create life, like water is life, and destroy. And so to realize that they're one and the same, and so there's this thing on offer this month where even as we see dragon energy rising, which again is both creation and destruction, there's this invitation to like sit with that you have this possibility or this ability to create or uncreate patterns in your life this month. You have that power. Whatever is rising within you now, the power that feels like it's rising to the surface, that's on offer. Whatever that power feels like in that moment, whether it's creative power, emotional power, feel the feelings, maybe it's rage, whatever it is, let that power come up and let it create or uncreate patterns that you want in your life. And just going back to that visual of the sine wave is almost this feeling of like we're literally creating like new wavelengths this month for ourselves. So think about like what patterns you want to instate this month and what patterns you're ready to like let be destroyed. And I almost get this sense that this energy that's rising within us will just do that naturally, just like how water naturally flows through the channels that are open. If you just open yourself to these patterns being either created or uncreated, then the energy will just flow there. So just be open to that happening. And again, to ask yourself, you know, what kind of world do you want to build for yourself? What kind of world do you want to live in? And this piece of this reality where it is possible for you to live in that world now in a day-to-day kind of way in terms of what you choose, in terms of the meaning you make out of life, how you decide to use your energy. You are creating the world that you want to live in now and creating new patterns of what you are going to do with your life force. And I know we've touched on this before, but just this sense of like your life force is so precious and it is here to be used to create what you're here to create in this world. And there's an opportunity on offer this month to like allow your life force to flow through you. Allow this raw power to arise and move through you in a way that it creates new patterns of how you're using your life force, actually using it in a way where you are fed by what you're doing in the world. You're fed by your relationships. You're fed by what you pour energy into, that the energy becomes like a system, like the water cycle, where it continually feeds itself. That's how your energy is actually meant to work. And there's a reprogramming, a repatterning that's on offer for you this month to be able to do that. So how do we do this? There was this thing that came through that I felt really strongly, and, that's kind of been a part of my practice for a long time, which is that, we all have dragons within us. Like, and there's this level in which we are all dragons on this earth. We are all like channels of life force and energy and Shakti and Chi moving into this world. And so, really allowing yourself to follow the dragon of your body. And that might even bring up something visceral for you right now. Like, how would a dragon want to move? What would a dragon want to do right now? There's a real letting go here of fetters, like a letting go of expectations around how you're supposed to be using your energy or how you're supposed to be using your time. There's a freedom here. Like, dragons aren't people pleasers. Dragons are not going to do what other people want them to do. They do what is right for them instinctually. And there's this feeling this month of reconnecting to your instincts, reconnecting to the instincts of your body, letting your body guide you. Does this feel right or wrong? Do I feel expanded or contracted when I think about this? Do I feel energy moving freely through me when I think about approaching, this, whatever it is, this choice I'm going to make, this thing I'm saying yes to? Or does it feel as if my life force is being blocked? That's what we're being asked to tune into. Where does the energy want to go? Deciding to direct it and noticing in your body when the energy is flowing and when it's not. So if possible, to make this even like a daily practice this month, just to take a minute, maybe you're driving in the car or making dinner or whatever it is, and just take a deep breath, turn your attention inwards, like into the cave within where all the treasures lie, where the dragon of your body rests, and just ask yourself, how is the energy flowing right now? And see if you can feel it in your body. Try on different choices. Does the energy flow differently with those different choices? If you're unclear where your energy needs to go this month, ask the dragon of your body to show you. Tune into the way your energy field either expands or contracts, the way in which it moves. Like, can you feel that sinuous sine flow of energy within yourself? Or does it feel tamped down? This is all like valuable, primordial information that is going to help guide you. And as you move into this, resist the impulse to demonize. Resist that impulse that is really like inherent to all these like Western mythologies that we have around the dragon, where we've not just demonized like the life force itself, chaos itself, creation energy, earth energy, Shakti energy, but the parts of ourselves that are connected to that. And even those of us who think to ourselves like, oh, like I don't do that. Like I'm here to be in communion with the earth. Like I honor myself as a part of the earth. We still have those places and times and pieces inside of ourselves where we come up against deep self-judgment for just being how we are. And this is especially true for sensitive people, right? We think I'm too much, like, why can't I just act normal in this situation? Like, why is this hard for me when it's not hard for other people? And that's, us demonizing this natural part of who we are, this natural neurodivergence that we walk with, that's part of our gifts that make us the special kind of dragon that we are in this life. So resist the urge to demonize, other people, other groups of people, resist the urge to demonize events that happen. See the power rising within all things and ask yourself, how am I supposed to use my power? Because that's really where power lies, is not in, cutting things off, demonizing, ostracizing people or parts of ourselves, but in embracing the power that is here, the power that is arising within us, and really reclaiming these energies inside of us. And like for a lot of sensitives, we tend to be hardest on ourselves. That's the first place we go of like, whose fault is this? Me. Like, it's my fault. Even like things happening on the world stage, I'm not doing enough. I'm part of the problem. And I just want to call your attention to that energy as a sensitive who's listening to this, because that's often where we like shunt that otherizing energy, that demonizing energy. And there's an invitation this month to just see it all as energy, to let go of the judgment and being like, this is all energy. And my energy is always directing me to know what is right for me, to be able to stand in my power by knowing what is right for me and by being able to follow the natural waterways in which my energy and power wants to move. So if you are feeling inspired by this, if you're feeling lit up by this, I encourage you as well to work with dragons. Dragons are not just part of cosmologies and mythologies. They're not stories. They're not fables. Dragons are real. This is a real energy that exists on this planet that we have come to call dragons, come to visualize in this way. But you have the ability to actually work with this energy. And in some scholarship around witches and witchcraft in historical Europe, it's seen and talked about that dragons were actually the familiars of witches. We have this concept of cats often, but dragons also make an appearance as the familiars for witches. So can you call in and work with a dragon familiar? Maybe you're already like really into dragon fantasy. I love dragon fantasy. Or, maybe you were into dragons as a kid. Like invite that energy back into your life this month. Call your dragon to come be with you, to come companion you during this time. You can decide to try and work with power in the earth, lines of power within the earth, these dragon lines or ley lines within the earth. Make it tangible in this way. Make it be an energy that you're interacting with within yourself, but also within the outer world, because there is this piece here where dragons are protectors. They come to protect us. They come to help us. Life force energy itself is protective. It's creative, it's procreative, it's fertile, and it's protective for us. And so as you feel big energy arising for you this month, feel free to call in your dragons. Ask them to be with you. Call dragon energy in and notice what shifts when it's not just you holding it anymore. So I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what this month ahead holds. Big energy. You don't just get the dragon card out of the blue. There's a lot of purpose behind receiving this card, this archetype, this guide who is here to help us connect into deeper wisdom within ourselves, and the kind of wisdom that will help us navigate this world and navigate this life that we've been handed. So if this reading for September resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. You can leave a comment, a rating, your review, or head on over to my website, asiasuler.com/remember, and leave me a voice note. I'm currently still on my sabbatical. I'm working on this book. I am hoping that these dragon energies this month are really going to help me bring forth the power and the energy needed to continue to bring this project out into the world. And I've just been so grateful for all of your support so far in making this a reality. This podcast is just one of my absolute favorite things to do with my time. And I'm so grateful for all the ways in which we've gotten to connect here. So as you walk into this month of September, remember that these powerful energies are coming up for you to work with, that you are so much more powerful than you realize on a day-to-day basis. And as you connect into this power and decide where you want to direct it to, as you learn how to ride this beautiful wave of power that is coming your way, may it help you remember the most important thing of all, why you're here.